So welcome to episode 2 of the I Take That Personal podcast, where we're going to discuss the personal nature of business, sales, real estate, mortgage, life, and how well, frankly, I take that shit personal. So before we get into it, I want to give a quick thank you to our sponsor, J&J Coastal Lending. You'll hear a little bit more about them as we go through the show. And we got a lot of great things planned. I'm super excited for me to have Christine DiCarlo here with us. She has some fantastic stories she's going to share in today's episode. And then we're also going to do a little thing as we get onto it that's going to be like this or that, right? Where we're going to learn a little bit more about Christine. And I can see already you're surprised. You're like, what's this or that? Yeah. So this is going to be fantastic. I'm super, super excited. So, one of the first things I want to ask is the name of your brokerage, Romeo Realty. Tell me what that means, because I've never known that until recently. So share with me.
Thank you. I started Romeo Realty 10 years ago, and Romeo means, it's Latin, and it means to return home.
How appropriate is that for someone that owns a real estate brokerage here in Huntington Beach, California, right? To return home. That's fantastic. So, as I've gotten to know you over the years and we've established a fantastic relationship together, which is why you're guest number 2, right? That's a big seat here, right? So from that perspective, I've learned how your business is different from so many other brokerages that and real estate agents that I know. So I guess one of the first things that I'd like you to kind of share a little bit about, if you don't mind, is how have you built your business, right? And I think it fits perfectly to the theme of our show. So share.
Well, I've built my business on word of mouth and building relationships. I focus on building relationships that last a generation, basically. A lot of my repeat clients come back to me with, by themselves, or they recommend their friends or their parents or their kids. So it just
So are
continues.
you doing them? Are you doing mailers? Are you doing any of that type of stuff?
No, you know what? I don't do mailers. I don't do a whole lot of paper marketing or anything like that. It's all reviews and word of mouth.
So what do you feel like you do in the relationship with your client that cultivates that long-term relationship? Because there's some stat, and I'd have to go back and look at it, but it's like, 80% of all consumers say they would use their same agent again on their next transaction, but only like 25 do, right? You probably know that stat better than I do. So from that perspective, how do you feel like you've created an experience, a personal experience, that has resulted in the ability to establish a fantastic brokerage built around referral and repeat business?
Well, anytime I'm introduced to somebody, the first thing I do is get to know them and find out what their needs are. Every transaction is different, and I've done hundreds of them, and no two have been the same. And so what I focus on is, what does that client need? Whether it's finding a room that in a house that they want to buy that they can put up a ballet bar, because their kid is really into ballet, so that's a focus. Or, finding the property that is closest to the beach or closest to work. I mean, a lot of times if I listen to them carefully and find out, what is their main criteria, and then I find that for them, or, it just kind of, it all comes together, but it's a lot of work, but I listen to them and I make sure that I'm meeting their needs.
It's interesting. So how often are you helping the client realize what their goal is that they weren't able to verbalize themselves?
There are a lot of times that we find a property and the client was like, I never imagined myself here. But now that I've seen it and I've, know more about it, this is exactly what I want. So sometimes just listening to what their kids are into or what their hobbies are. Like recently I found a property near a rock climbing wall because I knew that was a hobby of one of my clients. And so we were looking at property and I said, well, let's take a look at this one. He hadn't really thought about this one neighborhood, but I knew it had a rock climbing wall near it. And that's the one he took. So, I mean, it's just little things like that, listening to them. And, I'm a former teacher.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I have an elementary education master's.
What grade?
I taught first and third.
Okay.
So I taught third grade in a suburb of Chicago and then first grade here in Huntington Beach. And so I still feel like I'm teaching. There's that process that I'm always trying to make sure that my clients understand, whether it's selling the house and making sure they know how to explain disclosures and and what to do with that, with the property, or when they're buying and they need to know what all these disclosures or reports are telling them. That's really, really important to me, is to make sure that they understand the process. And I think that when I go through that with people, they realize that I really care. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I really put their needs first. There's been plenty of transactions that don't happen because sometimes together we realize this isn't the right property for them, or this isn't the time to sell. Like, I had clients come to me and they'd been in their house 7 or 8 years, which is typically the average. And then you kind of start, getting antsy and you want to sell. So we got the house all decluttered and got everything ready, took the photos, got all the marketing ready, had an open house, had a great response, and got a full price offer. The sellers and I sat down, went over the offer, and they said, well, actually, you've made us fall back in love with our house. We remember now all the feelings that we had when we purchased it. And they're sitting there going, look what you did. And they're looking at the photos and they're looking at the virtual tour. And they're like, we don't want to sell. We want to stay here. And so, I'm like, are you sure? Because, then of course, I mean, in this business, if somebody else decides if I get a paycheck, which that's not always easy to handle, I mean, that's just the way it is. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not going to make them sell. I'm not going to make them buy. If it isn't the right time, then it doesn't happen. But you know what? They stayed in their house for another 3 years. Then they sold last year at the top of the market, and they were super stoked, and so timing was great.
There you go.
But,
and you still helped them.
And I still helped them.
When the time was right.
Yeah, and that was actually our third transaction with them.
And that's the difference, right? And that's something else that I've always tried to implement into my business, because on the mortgage side, right, sometimes you have people that decide, for whatever the reason might be, that they're going to move forward with somebody else. And one of the things that I always try to do is make sure that I have a comfortable, warm exit. Because I want that door to be open, where if the other person fucks up, doesn't deliver what they say they're going to do, doesn't do a great experience, come 2, 3, 4 years down the line, I have the opportunity to still be in relationship with that person and conduct business, right? So you could have had a hissy fit. You could have tried to sell them on selling. You could have done everything about why now is the best time to sell and buy, right? But instead, you bowed out, you stayed in a relationship, and 3 years later, you helped them accomplish their goal. Yeah,
definitely. And I mean, I've had many buyers too. They get into the process and it's not the right house. They thought that was the right house, but somehow, through the disclosure process, they decided it isn't the right house. And it's hard to cancel. It's not easy to back out. I had one back out and they were the 4th in line. So they were the bottom. And so 3 other transactions didn't happen but it wasn't the right house. And sometimes that just happens.
Yeah. And to clarify for those that aren't real estate or mortgage professionals, that ultimately means that there were 3 other families that were buying and selling homes contingent on this transaction, right? So they're the 4th down the line here. And then that person, your buyer, canceled. So ultimately the rest of the dominoes couldn't fall, right? But to your point, it kind of is what it is, right? We're trying to do the right thing along the way, be diligent. Wasn't known going into it, right? And they decided it wasn't the right time for them.
Right.
Dude, I'm super excited for today because I've already learned more about you than I knew, and that's the teacher aspect of it.
Oh,
and
really?
I don't think we ever talked about that before. At least I don't remember it. And it a lot of ways in the disciplines that you have in your business, we have in our business, which aligns so much. And, you were talking about how you're explaining and teaching. And there's an adage that, if you can explain this to a 10-year-old, right? And that's something how we try to work in our business, where we're explaining almost like we're talking to a 10-year-old, not in a condescending fashion, but in a fashion that simplifies and really gets into the meat and potatoes of what this document or what this process is going to look like.
Yeah, and I think that it's so important because I may see those documents every day and I could say, just sign. And you're covered. These disclosures just cover you. But if I don't really feel like they understand them, I need to stop. I need to make sure that they understand them and understand the consequences. Like we were recently, a set of buyers I was working with, we got the preliminary title report and it had underground easements. And for a lot of people, that means nothing. But I knew that they wanted to put a pool in. So they're like, okay, everything looks fine, right? These things will be paid off in escrow and all of these charges will be taken care of. I said, but yes, but look, here's where the easement lines are for those utilities. And you guys want to put a pool in. So this is how big your pool can be. And we went back another day and we measured and we looked at, okay, can you live with that small of a pool or do you want a bigger pool? No, it wasn't the right property then because that wasn't going to work. And we didn't know that there were easements that, that were going to take up the space in the backyard. At first they were like, oh, great, there's no power lines in the sky. And that was a plus to them. But then I'm like, but if there's no power up,
where is
it's down. And so that could affect your use in the future. And so it wasn't the right house. But, that's why it's important to me that I give them that personalized attention. I've been successful over for years. And the reason is that I make sure that they understand every part of the transaction and feel comfortable with what they're doing.
No, it's fantastic. And it's that level of listening, right? And, whether that was a conscious, we're really scouting a home specifically to put a pool in, or whether it was that, like, I like rock climbing and you're just kind of behind the scenes going like, well, come check out this house. Yeah. And now, oh, by the way, now that you're here, there's that rock climbing wall, right? So it's that there's two levels. A lot of times people are pretty decent at the big listening, right? The big goals, the big conversations, but it's the subtle ones that I think create that depth through a relationship, which really creates that personal experience. And what's super interesting is, you discuss how the majority of your business, and it's the truth, is referral business, right? It's referral relationships, but yet you have many clients that you've never met. Yeah. You have many clients that find you that you've never met. So talk to me about that, balance between those two, and tell me about this.
I do. I actually, several transactions. I have purchased property for clients out of the area, and I've never met them. I've given their keys to their associates or, a relative down the road that after we close. But I listen to what they need, what are their goals, preview the property for them, go through the whole process as if they're with me, and they purchase it, but I've never met them. And then I've done that with sellers too, out of area sellers that have local properties that they want to sell. And those are, it's great. I mean, I'm very transparent. It's important that I'm extremely transparent with them about the whole process. What does the market look like? What does the property look like? Sometimes these clients have never even seen their own property in years. They've owned them. They've been investments for them. And so, that can be, a bit of a challenge, but it's important to me that, I know that they trust me and I make sure that I deliver on that. I've had to, some of those have, they've given me some of my funny stories too.
Share, please. So. We love stories. We love stories. Give me one.
So one client that was out of the area, he was actually from Canada. He had me sell a property here, and he had a family member in the property.
Okay.
But I had to tell the family member that the property was being sold, and because it wasn't a close relationship, but they were living there. So I went about the process of getting rid, or helping the tenant
find a new place,
find
right?
a new place,
relocating,
but relocate. Yes,
that's
the
it.
Relocation. But because it was kind of an unexpected change for them, they left a lot of things. So I then had to take all their food to food pantry or garbage or food.
The glamorous life of a realtor, everyone thinks, right?
Yeah, the clothing that I donated, the furniture that I donated. There was also some herbs that were left. I was told by people that know more than me that they were not worth it, but
there you go.
there was lots of.
So you didn't open a side business.
I did not open a side business.
You did not open a side business.
No,
pushing weight, right?
Yeah.
Pushing weight. At least that's what it was called when I was a kid.
But and then I had another property that I didn't meet the seller and actually sold two of her properties here. The first one went so great. She was like, let's do it again, totally out of area. The one that we sold for her had a tenant in it, because it was an investment property. And the kid, and he was a kid, I get it. And trust me, like, I feel for tenants when they get the call from me that says, your property is being sold. It's definitely not their favorite day. I mean, that's hard. So I deliver the news in a way that says, I'm really concerned about how I can make this
an easy transition,
easier
for you.
transition for you and accommodate you. And he wasn't happy, which, like I said, I totally understand. So I tried to make the showings around their schedule as much as possible, and just make it, as easy as I can. But he insisted on being at all the showings, which was fine. That's not a problem. But he did like to tell how terrible the property was, and how the new buyer shouldn't buy, and he made it pretty difficult. Which is kind of unfortunate, because then I found him a buyer that actually let him stay. So we got to stay in his property. But a few years later, the kid was running for a political position, and I heard a podcast, and he was on the podcast, and he was talking about how he was renting, and the property he was renting was being sold, and he purposely made it difficult on the realtor. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that's me. That's me.
That's me.
making my life difficult.
And now he's acknowledging it.
And now he acknowledged it. But, like I said,
Did he win?
No.
All
he's
right.
never won any of his elections. So
All
I'm
right.
like,
He tried. He tried.
Yeah, he tried.
I wonder why he didn't win. I mean, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is. But I know that my out-of-area clients really, are thankful that I can make this transaction happen for them. So, if I have to deal with the difficult client or the difficult tenant, then I will. I had one recently where the couple wasn't happy, which I totally understand. But again, and they wanted absolutely no photos inside, which I understand. So I created 3D renderings, I did floor plans, and did everything, virtually, basically. And then I had open house schedulings only.
Okay.
And I showed up at the one open house. They was what agreed upon by them, and I arrive and I was met by dog poop.
Oh my
on
Lord!
The little living room floor.
Like
so before I could, they had like a little dog. They had those wee pads or something, and just.
Sounds like a shit show.
It was a shit show. It was. But
Talk about sabotage.
Which again, that buyer also let those people stay. So I found a buyer that would let them stay too. So I'm like, people, I'm here for you.
Let's figure it out. Let's solve these problems.
My client, I'm working for my client. He needs to sell this investment property, but at the same time, I'm really trying to make everybody's lives
transition,
and everybody's transitions as easy as possible. But
I mean, talk about getting personal, right? No, I mean, and that's really it's really deep, the level of accommodation and trying to work with people's needs, right? Most people are just purely searching for the best price, the cheapest transaction, right? But to be able to go like, hey, listen, like this is what we have, this is what works for everybody, and give the clients the opportunity to evaluate it. I mean, that's a big deal, right? It's a real big deal. So that's fantastic. One of the things that I'd say is interesting that I'd like to hear a little bit more about is for somebody that doesn't really do like advertising, right? And has their business built a lot on referral, to be able to then work with so many clients that you haven't met before. How do you think they're finding you? Is it a referral from a past client? Like, what do you think? Where do you think that you're able to create that niche?
Well, there are a lot of online reviews out there, and I'm so thankful that, past clients have written about, working with me. And that's really,
so the out-of-state client, right, is probably evaluating or interviewing more than one agent.
Probably.
Have they given you any feedback on why they selected you?
Well, a lot of times it's based on the reviews that they've read.
Got it.
And our conversation. It's important to me that I help them and make them feel comfortable with what's going to be happening and what I'm going to be accomplishing, and that I can handle it. I have the experience in so many different types of transactions, and I have different experiences that, will apply to their specific needs. And I just share that with them. And I just, I'm available, by phone, text, I'll Zoom, I'll do whatever that it takes to make sure that they are comfortable with me.
That's great.
So,
great.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I gave you the heads up, but we do. You just talked about do.
Yeah.
We talk a little bit. We have a quick little break here where we're going to have a word from our sponsors. So we'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to us by J&J Coastal Lending. J&J is an independent mortgage broker with a network of over 70 different investors offering hundreds of loan programs. Whether your personal loan needs are simple or complicated, if you need a $200,000 loan or a $2 million loan, J&J will find the best loan program and rate. FHA, VA, conventional, jumbo, or a first-time homebuyer in need of down payment assistance. Regular income docs or outside the box, no documentation loan options. J&J has a solution to meet your unique needs. Visit www.thinkjnj.com for a no-cost, no-commitment evaluation. And when you're there, mention this podcast and J&J will give you $1,000 in lender credits on your next home loan. All right, and now we're back, and as you know, we're here with Christine DiCarlo of Romeo Realty, and something that I still have not done yet is tell you who I am. My name is John Soroselli, so I want to make sure I get that in at least once this episode. So, that being said, you have shared some fantastic stories so far, everything that's ranging from doo-doo straight on down to some of the interactions with tenants and some of those tough conversations, right? But one of the things that I would like to hear about is, do you have something that you can share about, let's call it the American dream, and bear with me when I say that. The American dream is like, hey, I get my first home, it's not my forever home, and we build towards that. We build wealth, we build a real estate portfolio, whatever that might look like. So you got some great stories, and you deal with a lot of investors. So tell me, what stories do you have that you can share in that genre?
Oh, I definitely have great stories. Lots of those, actually.
Okay.
That actually is, kind of like what I love the most, because I love being a part of someone's home story.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the times those are the buyers that, are trying to find that forever place. Recently, I had buyers that they had bought a starter home, and then they had kids, and so the house is getting smaller. And so they reached out and they said, okay, we need to get a bigger house, a forever house. Mm-hmm. And they had to sell to buy, so we had to get pretty creative with that, which we were very successful with, they got a great price for it, and we found a buyer that would let them stay while they were looking for their property. And the property that they had their eyes on had multiple offers. And I remember, it's just walked out of Starbucks, I remember getting a call from the agent, and she said, we have multiple offers out, first one back gets it.
It's a race.
It's a race. It was a race. I, jump in my car. I go, I got it. I called them. I call my buyers and I said, okay, I've never had this where it is literally first one in, but I'm on my phone. I can send you over the counter offer right now. Let's make this happen. And they're like, okay. So I sent it. We got it all in, and they got the house. Like, it really was a race, and it worked. Mm-hmm. And they won, quote unquote won. Mm-hmm. And they still, to this day, literally this day, they still tell me how thankful they are that they were able to have this house. Mm-hmm. Their first Christmas in there, they wrote me, a few days before Christmas, and they're like, you don't understand how amazing this house is, because we have so many new places to put our elf on the shelf. And they're like, yes, they loved it. They're like, and so I love that. And I love when, my buyers will contact me and say, tell me stories about what they're doing in the house, so the elf on the shelf buyers, I talked to them recently, and they're getting ready to redo the kitchen. And I love how they continue to involve me. I had a buyer yesterday call me, and she said, the house that we bought. Okay. So the house that we bought, I'll tell you something. It used to be on MTV Cribs. Right. And the pool that was put in is in the shape of a guitar. So it's a really cool house. And then there was a trampoline in the backyard, in ground. So she calls me yesterday.
Could you go from the trampoline to the pool?
Almost.
Right.
Probably, I'm sure people tried. But so, she contacted me yesterday actually and was like, okay, I want to take the trampoline out. Who do you have? Who do you trust? I get a lot of those calls, and that's why, that's what I want them to be. I want them to call me back. I want them to keep me involved in what they're doing in the house. And, I do have referrals for just about every kind of job or every kind of construction or repair that they might need.
That's amazing. And you know what? So here's where the podcast goes sideways, because, we're live. We're not prepped for this, but as you're telling this story, I'm thinking about, and I can't remember their name. It's one of the first clients we did together. Uh-huh. It's a mother and daughter. Roxanne? What's her name? Do you remember their names? Natalie and Veronica. Yeah. Thank you, Natalie. See, she saved me. We didn't go astray. Natalie still texts me
every holiday.
Every holiday.
Every special day.
Every special day.
Even if it's just like the most
I'm
random
getting
holiday.
goosebumps right now. I
I
don't know if
love
you can
them.
see it. I'm getting
and they are truly American dream.
It's like, yeah, I get goosebumps. I mean,
you saved, like you made that happen. You
Wow.
made that happen, and I couldn't have been more thankful. And I know they are extremely thankful.
and I wasn't
That's-
going into the make it
wasn't-
happen. But I appreciate it. Thank you,
But
thank you very much.
you
That
definitely
wasn't,
did.
but no. It's the. She always sends me a text, Happy Father's Day,
Yep.
Merry Christmas, and it's genuine. And that transaction 5 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that. And the fact that she still thinks of us is how this podcast was birthed, right? So our mission statement, as you know, says from hello, we create a personal home loan experience so unique that their joy and excitement is uncontainable. And that personal nature of the business of what we're doing and the impact that we have on people's lives is a lot of times unrecognized, especially by the big corporations, right? Where you're just one other person that you're calling on a caller ID into an office pool, right? But the personal, forget about the relationship I'm trying to create, how important it's going to be for the elf on the shelf family, right? For the fact that we're going to have a client now 5 years later that's still thanking us.
Yep. Oh, that's why I do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally why I do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it just, it's why I put up with canceled transactions. It's why I put up with,
All of
it. Because I'm part of their home story and I get to make their day.
So coming back a little bit further, right? I don't have it on me, right? But I have a card in my wallet that I laminated that goes back. I actually have one in my wallet and under my desk at home that goes back, I don't know, maybe when I was 20, 21, 22, who knows? And I put together like 10 things, right? And one of the things on there was that I wanted to positively impact the lives of others. And as I was going through my own journey of, business and, family and, ups and downs and wins and losses and all these different things. And I was, coming to kind of like understanding my why better. That line resonated with me that I had created. And then I said, how do I put that in my business? How do I put that positively impacting the lives of others in my business, and thus the personal nature of the creating that excitement and that joy and all that type of stuff. So we got sappy here for a hot second. That wasn't intentional.
No, that's good because I actually am going through a rebranding right now because Romeo's 10 years old this year.
Congratulations.
Crazy.
Woo.
I know.
Let's put in some like effects here maybe.
Yeah, I've got
We'll
some major
effects,
decades.
signs, yeah.
I got some major decade things happening this year. I got the big 5-0.
Uh-oh.
I've got the 20-year wedding anniversary.
Uh-oh.
Romeo's 10 years old this year. So I'm going through new colors, new logo, and really taking a look at the mission statement and looking at, how did I get here? And, building those relationships for generations kept coming out and really, has all kind of been woven through all of it, So and that's what means the most to me.
That's it. That's it. I mean, it's creating that family. It's creating that environment. So that's fantastic. I mean, I could do this forever. I'm going to tell you that. This is a fantastic conversation. I love this. So I want to get into let's speaking of fun, right? Let's do a little bit of the gamification.
All right.
Come on, dude. We're going to do a little of this or that. All right.
Okay.
We can talk about it a little bit more, but I'm going to start off with a simple one, right?
Please.
Maybe it'll be simple. It's simple for me. Wine or beer?
Wine.
All right. What type?
Unless I'm in Germany.
Okay. Well, geez, I've never been to Germany, so forgive me. How often are you in Germany?
3
You
times
just got back
now.
from a trip,
Yes,
right?
we did just take another trip, and I'm on day 157, I think, of Duolingo.
All right.
Because I'm determined to go back the next time and be able to speak.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I'm really bad when we go to
So
Europe.
in
and
Germany,
my
it's beer,
Yeah.
but over here, it's
Dunkel
wine.
Weizen.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Uncle Feinstein. Did I say that right? How did I do that? I have a sister-in-law, cousin-in-law, someone who's very close to us. That's that's German, and she's from Germany. And maybe I should connect you guys. I don't know
Yes.
where she is.
I could practice.
Okay. Well, she taught my oldest kid, Hadley, who's 10 at the moment, a line. and she still delivers it perfectly. I can speak. And it's basically like, I don't know, where's the pencil or something like that. But it's just like, like, it's all good. All right. So we got beer if we're in Germany, but we got wine when we're here in California. All right. So pizza or tacos?
A pizza.
Thank you. Knuckle me up. Give me some love.
Yeah. Well, I did live in Chicago for 4 years.
All right. That's fine.
So,
Chicago deep dish, or you go for like the thin crust?
But you know what's so funny? I'm a thin crust.
Yeah, me too. I'm not a thin crust.
The deep dish
I
was just way too much.
Yeah, I'm no deep dish. I'm a thin crust.
No.
What's your favorite pizzeria in the neighborhood? Maybe they'll be our next ad sponsor.
You know what's so funny? There's a lot of great pizza places around here, but I like the store pizza.
Oh, you like DiGiorno?
Are
you like DiGiorno?
No,
DiGiorno is not sponsoring our podcast.
Just like Albertsons brand. They make the best thin crust pizzas.
So, all right, I'm going to give you some, okay? I'm going to give you some right now. So, I'll go from here to Bertucci's.
Yeah, they're good.
Bertucci's does a pretty good job.
Yep.
Johnny's Pizza, John's Saloon, Johnny's Pizza.
Johnny's is, yes.
Johnny's is like this secret known inside trick pizzeria there.
Yeah.
But I actually had Johnny's. My wife loves it. She sent me last Sunday. So, and they used to have a secret phone number you can text.
Yep.
Gone. Can't do it. I texted them. They're like, "What's up, John?" They had me in there. They're like, "What's up, John?" I can't do that anymore. So I had to go there, stand in line. I don't fit the crowd, but it was a great crowd. So, I was there in sweatpants. Everyone's there hanging out. It was great.
No, we love Johnny's. And I love they'll sign the box.
Oh, yeah.
With everybody.
There was like a bunch of people's names, and my kids were like, all these people made your pizza.
Yeah, everybody made your pizza. Yeah, no,
they're
definitely.
So we got pizza. That's good.
Yeah.
I bet you my wife said tacos. I have to ask her. All right, snow or beach?
That's hard. Because I grew up in Ohio. So I had snow.
Okay.
But I love beach.
Okay.
Definitely the beach. But I love my absolute favorite, and I actually took pictures of it again this morning, is when the snow is on the mountains now. Like I say, the mountains are up.
Have you ever done like the ultimate California day?
I didn't. No, where you surf in the morning and then go ski
Surf in the morning, golf, ski.
No,
I've never done the ultimate
we haven't
day.
done that. We
can do that right here.
We can. We're so blessed.
The beach is half a block away.
Yes.
And then we can get to a mountain in like an hour and a half?
Yeah.
I mean, the first mountain at least.
Yeah. But ski or snowboard.
Oh, you're talking about me now?
Yes,
You're asking me? Jesus. So I'm from New York, and I did skiing. Yeah. And then I like skiing. I'm pretty good at skiing. I mean, I'm not like I'm a skier. But like I'm a black diamonter, Oh, yeah. Not like I try to avoid as many moguls as possible, but like I'm a black diamonter from but now, and then I've done the snowboarding. I was the guy. You want to hear a snowboarding story?
Yes.
Here you go. I'm going to give you a snowboarding story. We're going to be here for a little bit longer today. So I'm going to give you a snowboarding story. Here's my snowboarding story. I'm a athlete, basketball, football, soccer, all that stuff. I'm in New York, and I'm a skier, and I go with a buddy of mine from high school. I remember exactly what he looks like, but I can't remember his name. And we go snowboarding, and we go out, and I'm like, or we go skiing and snowboarding, right? And I'm like, you know what? I can snowboard. I can skateboard. Like, screw it. Just give me your stuff. I put on the stuff. I go to the top of the mountain, right? And this is like a blue square or something like that, right? We're not talking about like crazy blue square. And I'm like, I'm just going to go. I fell so hard, so much, catching an edge so frequently that literally there was, and this is like before helmets or any of that stuff, right? Literally, I was at the spot where I'm like, if I fall one more time, I'm taking this off and walking down the damn mountain. Like everything hurt. So I'm a skier. Since then I've taken a couple snowboard lessons, but I don't go enough, and I'm not in a good enough shape anymore. Where like if I'm gonna go, the kids snowboard.
Oh my kids all do. Yeah.
But if I'm gonna go, it'll be ski. So all right, so we got there. So let's do a business one here, right?
Okay.
Let me think of a good business one here because we've already talked a lot about business ones here. So we know that we're not doing much as far as the mailers and stuff like that are concerned. So let's just say showings at night or during the day. How about that?
Both, but I prefer day.
Okay.
I do like day more. I mean, you can, see everything better. But,
yep.
I mean, but night is really important too. So if we haven't had a chance to see a house at night, and we've only seen it during the day, and my buyers are really, really loving it, I do make sure that they go at night.
Got it.
Whether, I go at night and I send them video or send pictures, or they can actually physically see it themselves again, because it's different. A house is different at night than it is during the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. I think we touched base on everything that I was hoping to do and more. I think that you are absolutely going to be our first reoccurring guest because you got so many stories and so many great things. So I appreciate the time deeply. You're going to give me a little knuckle here.
I appreciate
and,
you. And
thank you for listening.
opportunity.
Hit all the subscribe, likes, and all those buttons around us. And thanks again to our sponsor, J&J Coastal Lending.